Right, so the thin skin of the big orange man baby Donald Trump has been pierced repeatedly over the last 24 hours or so by not just one world leader, but several, leaving him with the political appearance right now of having come off the worst in a scrap with a porcupine. It's not as if it's a huge stretch for leaders of a certain calibre to leave little Donnie battered and bruised, though, is it? A man with no class, no charm, no wit, no compassion, no credibility, no brains, no self-awareness, no humility, no warmth, no wisdom, no subtlety, no political astuteness, no grace, no honour, and who is, lest we forget above all else, a convicted criminal. On that last point alone, even if Trump had some kind of discernible leadership qualities, it'd be politically damaging to associate or kiss the backside of such a person. Therefore, Keir Starmer being his first port of call amongst European leaders to congratulate him on becoming president speaks for itself. But others are most certainly not doing that, coming out swinging as Trump attempts to throw his not inconsiderable McDonalds-fueled weight around and lay down the law to others. But it's not working. Nations have the temerity to push back, and they're doing so in some truly hilarious ways at that. Right, so who appointed Donald Trump the king of the world, eh? Well, nobody did they? But he certainly seems to think he is, infamously thus far having opined that Canada would love to become part of the US and demanding that Denmark hand over Greenland. Something so daft even Trump surely couldn't be serious about that. But actually, well, it turned out he was very serious about it, wasn't it? But these quite well reported upon stories of the last few weeks are just scratching the surface, really, as Trump has gone on to create beef with a significant number of other states now, from Indonesia, Palestine, Panama, Indonesia, Colombia, Mexico, and Honduras, just to name a few. And you might not have heard about all of these diplomatic fallouts. Some have come very, very recently in the last day or so, but some of them are Trump to a T, and some have elicited response which have just been comedy gold. On the matter of Greenland, well, to start with, I thought Trump wanted it for the mineral wealth his bestie Elon Musk needed for them to stick in his Teslas, now being rebranded across social media as swastikars, which is everything Musk deserved to happen, really, not just for the dodgy salute, but the even dodgier address to Germany's far right, telling them they have nothing to be sorry for. But where Trump may be looking to buy other countries, he sold the US to Musk after all, and he wants to be a part of that. Well, it looks like they might have fallen out now. Buyer's remorse, Donnie, is it? Oh dear, how sad, never mind. But with Greenland having been Danish territory for the last 800 years, and Danish MEP Anders Vistisen having stood up at the European Union, taken to the podium, and literally stood there in front of the EU and told Trump he can F off over the notion, well, Donnie is not winning friends and influencing people here, is he? Actually, there's an even more hilarious aspect of this story, though, which you might not know about, especially if you're in the UK, actually, because to actually purchase Greenland, even if Denmark planned to put it on the market, he'd actually need Keir Starmer's permission, it seems. An undertaking began in 1917 by the US to purchase Greenland occurred, but because Canada was still British Dominion at the time, Canada not becoming officially free of British rule until 1982, would you believe? I didn't realise that. But because Greenland sits just off Canadian territory at that point that it was British territory, Britain actually have first dibs on Greenland should Denmark ever wish to part with it. So go on, Donnie, put Starmer on the spot about it. How about you ask him if you'd mind selling it to you instead? We'd get the popcorn in for that conversation. But setting aside Greenland, Canada, and Trump's push for control of the Panama Canal at that, nonsense he's been dropping since before becoming president again, as we all know, it is his actions since that have sparked massive upheaval. For example, there was the executive orders to slash foreign aid that have come out. Trump cutting it from literally every country on the planet except two, Egypt and Israel, curiously enough. I should imagine that had Zelensky crying into his begging bowl, incidentally. But it put beyond doubt whose side Trump is on in the ongoing warfare in the Middle East, and as far as warfare goes globally, because the issue of Gaza is the only foreign issue that he seems to have any kind of passing interest in, wedged between Israel and Egypt as Gaza is. But the ire has only stepped up from there because Trump has suggested that the likes of Egypt and Jordan should take the people of Palestine into their own land so that Gaza, well, so it can be rebuilt, so they don't have people in the way, so they can just get on with it, you understand? All for purely altruistic reasons, I'm sure. Now, I'm also sure this has absolutely nothing to do with Trump opining that Gaza would be prime real estate, that it has lovely views, lovely beaches, and that it could really be something if some work was put into it, because this might as well be Jared Kushner operating him like a marionette, wouldn't it? I'm sure the axing of the Biden bloc on those 2,000-pound dumb bombs being sold to Israel won't hurt those redevelopment plans either. Netanyahu is certainly delighted about them.
Thank you, President Trump, for keeping your promise to give Israel the tools it needs to defend itself, to confront our common enemies, and to secure a future of peace and prosperity.
Dumb bombs for a dumb bomber. Of course, Trump has cut foreign aid to Jordan, though, here, and he's saying that Jordan could take on these Palestinians. Jordan's determination to avoid conflict with Israel and be eternally Western-centric being rewarded no end there, eh? It was only at the end of December 2023 that the Biden administration signed a minimum $1 billion a year deal in aid to Jordan, which followed itself the signing of a memorandum of understanding with Jordan for some $10 billion over 7 years that was signed in 2022, which includes contributing to Jordan's economic budgetary stability, education, military aid, health services, and water security. That's a huge matter for a very, very dry nation as Jordan is. And this is all the more pertinent since Israel's invasion of southern Syria has seen them seize control of water there, which accounts for 40% of Jordan's water supply. And now Trump has cut the cash off too, yet expects good old loyal Jordan to take Palestinians out of Gaza. This would, of course, be ethnic cleansing, and it's being called out as such. And if you trust Trump to just let the people of Gaza back in after he has rebuilt it, well, he's not going to sell it to them, is he? Jordan has unsurprisingly, but emphatically kicked back at this, clinging to the two-state solution as the answer, despite no willingness to actually ever see this plan delivered from anybody, least of all Israel. Though with the foreign aid freeze optimistically seen as lasting only 90 days, Jordan might well be hedging their bets and still aiming to keep Trump sweet. Other nations, however, are showing a bit more flex. Indonesia has been cited by Trump as somewhere to relocate Palestinians to as well, Indonesia being the largest Muslim country by population on the planet, having turned around and directly accused the US of trying to wipe Palestine from the face of the earth, though, recognising Palestine as its people rather than the land they occupy alone, as they do in Indonesia. Therefore, to them, to remove Palestinians from their land is to erase their identity and their existence. But not only that, Trump never even asked them if this was an option. As international relations expert Tuku Rezasaya has stated in the Indonesian Business Post, currently the US leaves the world responsible for Palestinians. They stir up trouble and then walk away. Well, that is the American way to make war, isn't it? Go to war, wreck a country, displace a load of people, create a lot of refugees and leave a mess behind. Driving a bulldozer through diplomatic relations is the Trump cherry on the top, though. But all of this is ostensibly meaning very polite, though. Another issue has invited far more aggressive opposition and some frankly hilarious spats. But this centres around the not at all funny issue of Trump's deportations. Overnight, matters on this point escalated with Colombia, as their president, the socialist Gustavo Petro, that's a swear word in Trump's dictionary, isn't it, refused to entertain military flights from the US, dumping Colombian citizens back in his country, rounded up and summarily deported without clearing them from arrival in Colombia first. Trump throwing his weight around, thinking he can get one over on a socialist, and Petro wasn't having any of it, refusing to provide clearance for those flights. Well, Trump threw a wobbler and slapped 25% tariffs on Colombian goods going to the US. Now, no matter how many times the big orange idiot has to be told tariffs are paid by US importers and passed on to US consumers as a result, he still thinks they're a great weapon to use against other countries. Well, what are the main imports to the US from Colombia? Crude oil, you're very fond of that. Coffee, you're very fond of that as well. And flowers. If US oil and gas prices, not to mention the price of coffee, go up now, well, just blame Trump. Now, several mainstream media outlets are also painting this story as Petro backing down to Trump later on. A quarter of Colombia's exports go to the US, but Colombia also hit back with a threat of tariffs on US imports there too. However, the truth is, Petro's issue was centered around Trump's mistreatment of his people and refusing to put up with an unannounced military flight to his country to bring back his people having been treated like dirt. What Petro has done instead is send a proper plane to bring them home with dignity and respect. Staying in the Americas, though, and on this topic of US deportations, the best and funniest response yet to Trump and his anti-migrant rhetoric has to go to President Castro of Honduras. You see, what little Donnie has forgotten is that all over the world, the US has these things called military bases. And in response to any perceived mistreatment of her own people, the Honduran president made a video address reminding Trump that he has such bases in her country, that the US has never paid a penny in rent on them, and that if Honduran people are mistreated by him, she's going to shut them down.
Pueblo hondureño, quiero manifestar que esperamos que la nueva administración norteamericana del presidente electo democráticamente, Donald Trump, sea abierta al diálogo, constructivo y amistoso. Que no tome represalias innecesarias contra nuestros migrantes frente a una actitud hostil de expulsión masiva de nuestros hermanos. Tendríamos que considerar un cambio en nuestras políticas de cooperación con Estados Unidos, especialmente en el campo militar, en el que sin pagar un centavo por décadas mantienen bases militares en nuestro territorio, que en este caso perderían toda la razón de existir en otro.
You can impose as many tariffs as you like in response to that. You won't have a military base there. It won't be operable. Trump is a world joke, just not a very funny one. What is quite funny, though, what has been quite funny, is seeing his dolt of a son Eric have an aneurysm over all of this in a now deleted tweet which said, "Any and all who dare to defy the American Golden Age, heed this warning. You will lose. Toe the line or we will run you down. The gloves are off and we're not playing around this time. For now it's tariffs, but trust me, we can and will do so much worse." Not out of a military base in Honduras has been shut down, Sonny Jim. Get him in his caps lock tantrum, sharp as a marble and about as tough as a blancmange. Another Trump presidency has kicked off exactly as we knew it would, a mix of hilarity and despair. The world isn't laughing so much this time, though. And if Team Trump carry on like this, they might find the rest of the world can and will do so much worse. Meanwhile, in another set of events, and prior to Trump making Netanyahu happy with more weapons, he made Netanyahu very sad with a big favour for Hezbollah, as it happened. He made them quite happy instead. In fact, as this video recommendation will tell you all about, is your suggested next one. So please do also hit like, share and subscribe before you watch that, though, so you don't miss new content dropping on this channel every single day as it does. And it also helps support the channel too, which is enormously appreciated as well. And I will therefore hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.